Guys, we're back with another episode of Shut Up, Marc. We went local today. Usually it's an athlete. Were you an athlete at any point in your life?
I mean, can you tell?
Yeah, I would say you're in pretty damn good shape for your age. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? You look pretty fucking good.
I was a mediocre high school football player.
Still an
I
athlete.
played a little in college, but that was it.
Where? Where'd you go?
UMass.
Amherst?
No, Boston.
Boston.
I first went to University of New Haven. I got a full scholarship to go play there.
Football?
Yeah.
What were you, running back?
I was a linebacker.
Yeah, shocker.
And then it didn't work out, so I ended up doing a semester at UMass Boston, where I played my freshman year, started. All tough kids. Mm-hmm. It was great. But I just wanted to work. So yeah, I guess I am a little bit of an athlete.
I would say, yeah, you played in college. I would definitely say like you're an
long
athlete.
time ago.
That's really all I wanted to talk to you about today was like your time at UMass Boston for that one semester, because I feel like that's the origin story for a lot of successful people from the city of Boston or around there.
Defining moment in my
100%
life.
100% is the semester at UMass.
That 3 minutes that I actually went to class.
What do you do? Like, how does that shape the rest of your life? Really, at the end of the day, is like the one semester UMass.
UMass didn't shape my life.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was fun. I'll tell you, fun as hell.
Yeah.
I was there with a bunch of kids from Charlestown, and we had a blast. We all ended up. It's funny. The coach of our team was a probation officer in Charlestown District Court.
Okay.
Awesome guy, Jim Kent, and he lives in Melrose.
No shit.
But he ended up. We all went to like bigger schools than UMass Boston, and like the two Coloran twins were like unbelievable football players. They could have went Division I. They went to Plymouth State, but ended up at UMass. I went to New Haven, ended up at UMass. My buddy Eddie McKinnon ended up Southern Connecticut. All good schools, but we ended up back. Kent took care of us, so we used to call it Misfit Island.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was great. They don't have football anymore.
No, they don't. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. So my dad, the reason I make that like UMass Boston joke is because my dad, my father Anthony, did the exact same thing. Went freshman year, played like.
But he was a hockey player.
So we went there for hockey and stuff like that. No, but so you said New Haven you started at?
Yeah. I was there for 5 days. I mean,
did you get a piece of pizza at all?
No, I got. I think it was like training day. You know what I mean? Every day was an adventure.
That's hilarious. So now. For people that don't know, you're originally a Medford guy.
I am, 100% Medford Mustang.
Now, tell us about, like, Medford back when you were a kid. Like, how has it changed since it's been there? Like, Medford's a huge camaraderie town, city, whatever you want to call it. You guys put out some great athletes, Sean Bates and shit. Like,
there's Sackos,
Keith Kachuk.
We grew up on the same street.
Yeah.
There were a lot of great football players, baseball players. Warren Olson got drafted out of Medford High School in 1984.
Crazy.
By the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, a lot of. But Medford's a city. It's blue collar. Was very blue collar. Most of the people that lived in Medford and Somerville were from Charlestown, East Boston, Dorchester.
Sure.
So there was a lot of inner city. Like
presence.
My parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But Medford is a city, and like we were talking yesterday. It's funny you bring this up. We were talking yesterday. If Boston was structured like New York, like Medford, Everett, Somerville, would all be boroughs. It'd be like the five boroughs.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So that's basically what it is. But I mean, growing up in Medford was awesome. We didn't know what we didn't have.
Sure.
Right. We were in a small, modest little house, probably like 1,300 square feet maybe. And the neighbors, I mean, everybody, you knew your neighbors. There were always 20 or 30 kids on the street. In the winter, we're playing street hockey. In the summer, we're playing like relevio or outs. Did you ever hear of outs?
Yeah.
So outs would be basically, there's a bunch of different, two people, one would be one sore cap, one would be the other in the middle of the street. And you're trying to steal the bases back and forth, and you're throwing the ball. I mean, it was just great. We were always out doing something, never in our house. And there was like age groups. You'd have the older kids that were on the street corners at the park, and then you'd have, and everybody watched out for everybody. That's what was different. But now, and I've been out of Medford probably 22, 23 years. I'm so proud of being from there. But it's changed. I mean, it's a lot more blue collar people not living there. It's expensive now, and it's kind of like, you had Cambridge was the People's Republic of Cambridge, was pretty liberal, and then came over to Somerville, and now it's Medford. So I miss there. I'd love to go back there, but it's just tough, because people that are from there don't live there anymore.
Do you think that's something that you struggle with as a guy from, like my dad's a North End guy.
Right.
And I think it's tough for a lot of people. I'm a suburbs guy, so I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just, my dad going by that. Do you think it's tough to watch like your old neighborhood, town, city gentrify? Not from we're losing control and we hate these new people, but see the identity change in terms of like this town. It's not like whether it's better or worse is subjective.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, do you think it's tough for people that grew up there and love like whatever place?
Yeah, I
you're
mean,
from?
I'll be honest with you, it's personal, right?
Sure.
Because everything I had a great experience growing up. I had a great experience. Medford High School was insanity every day. It was like there was a dilemma every day, but like everybody knew each other. Everybody, it was just that's what shapes your life. Growing up in a neighborhood like we grew up, going to school, which was a pretty diverse high school. But what bothers me is when you have people that move into any city or town that's not from there, and they want to kind of change
things,
change the core values of what made Medford the Medford that I know and love. That's the hard pill to swallow. And I guess it's like anything else, We all like change, but we really don't like change, if that makes sense. You want everything to be great. You want your property value to go up and all this other stuff, but it comes at a cost, right?
Sure.
It comes with a different mentality of people that didn't grow up there, that really have no connection to the city. They're there because it's convenient maybe to get to Boston to work, or maybe they're there because, the school systems or whatever the case may be. I just don't like seeing things change where, the core values and the history is kind of pushed to the side.
Yeah.
That's the tough pill to swallow, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't change that. My upbringing, I wouldn't change the friends I made, the lessons learned, the good and bad ones. Medford was pretty rough.
Yeah, no, probably not an easy place to grow up, navigate. Like I said, I hear stories from the old man.
Yeah,
my mom's a Revere girl, so it's like you hear stuff and you're like, Medford was not this like cakewalk of a place to grow up.
You got Malden. Malden was very gritty. Everett,
yeah,
all those surroundings. That's why I said it'd be like the boroughs in New York.
100%.
And but the one good thing is playing sports. My older brother, was a great athlete.
Yeah.
I was a decent athlete. I had to work at everything, and my brother Michael played sports. Once you play sports and you make lifelong friends, no matter what, that's what probably the most important value that I love taking from there is, you played sports, you hung around, you weren't defined by anything but what park you grew up near. Like you had kids that grew up at Tufts Park in South Medford. Where you from? Tufts Park. Where you from? Barry Park. Where you from? Cummings Park.
Duggar Park.
Where are you from? Duggar Park, right?
That's West Medford, right?
West Medford, right?
Yeah.
And it was a predominantly black section of Medford. And there was really no issues with race or anything else because Medford High was so diverse. Everybody played sports. Everybody did things together. But you were defined by where the park you grew up in. You had Jim's Market, Fulton, on Fulton Street.
Tell the people about Jim's really quick, by the way.
Jim's Market was the best, right? So we would get what they call B-boys. Mr. Howard, the Howards are great people. I think he passed away and his son runs it now. But you'd go there, you get a sub roll with a ham, egg, and cheese for $1. So in high school, whoever had a car was going up there with $5 or going $20, coming back selling B-boys up in the price 100%, selling them for $2. That's an icon. Now
and then you make
you go in there like $8.50, right? Which they should be. Inflation.
Yeah,
inflation. Eggs are expensive. We know that, right?
Yeah, no, that's the sign of the times. But like, that was back in the day when I feel like people could do stuff like that, and like if you made an extra $15, that was like a kind of a come up. You were like, dude, this is awesome. I just gassed my car up for like 2 weeks.
You showed up in Medford High with a couple B-boys, like you were considered wealthy.
That was like a sign of like...
Yeah, you had money.
Yeah, that stuff just doesn't happen
But that was
anymore,
car park, so all those kids, that was North Medford, they were car park. So you had Morrison Park. So it wasn't like, hey, where you from? You wouldn't say Lyman Ave or Morris, or Central Ave. You'd say Barry Park or I'm from Cummings Park, I'm from Tufts Park.
Yeah.
That's how you were defined. There's no one in Medford right now saying that. These kids. Number one, you can't catch a kid on the street playing, right?
I don't know. It's really kind of tough
and
to see that.
They're never going to identify with a park. Because,
No.
it just is what it is.
I feel like people just don't do stuff like that anymore. You know what I mean?
No,
Like my
no.
dad, North End guy, was like, "Where you from?" Oh, right off Charter Street.
I know your dad real well.
Yeah, the Endicott guy and Endicott Street guys.
That's easy for you to say, huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mouthful. Prince Street, wherever it was, that's kind of how. And obviously, like the North End is a fraction of the size, not even close to as big as Medford is, but. That's kind of how they would sort things out. And
in Medford, people don't even realize, like, forget the athletes that came out of there because they were great athletes. You had the Sackos, the Bateses, Kachucks, Warren Olson, all these guys, right? But you also had, like, prominent people like Mayor Bloomberg, mayor of New York, who's, he's not hurting for cash.
No.
He grew up in Medford. He went to Medford High School.
So I honestly had no idea.
A lot of prominent people came out of there that weren't prominent.
Yeah. That's great. Is Medford underrated? I think that's going to have to be a clip. Like, is Medford kind of underrated?
Medford's underrated.
You think so?
A little overpriced these days, but it's underrated.
But it's underrated as a whole.
Yeah.
Now, the city of Boston has changed a lot in your lifetime.
Sure.
Right? Okay. So I want you to paint a picture for the people listening and for this clip, whatever it is. Your version of what's your version of Boston where it's like, this is. I don't know, you're like 22, 23, whatever it is. Whatever your favorite version of Boston is.
Oh,
what year is this? Like, paint a picture for the people.
Oh, that's a great question because I got a great answer for you.
Cool.
So I worked for a company called Shaughnessy and Ahern, the crane company in Boston.
Shout out to them.
They're the best.
Yeah.
Best family in the world. Tough employer to work for. I did my apprenticeship program there. But if it wasn't for them, I would have never been able to buy my first house in Medford at 20 years old. I bought a 3-family house because... we worked 7 days a week, and it was in South Boston. So I'll give you how Boston's changed, and what do I think of Boston? I love the city of Boston. I love it. It's very crowded, very opinionated, which is good.
Yeah.
Right? But again, same problems exist like in Medford, Malden, Everett. Most people that live in the city of Boston now can't afford to live here anymore.
Right.
And you've got suburban people that want to be city people, moving in, paying $4,000 or $5,000 a month to rent in the Seaport.
Sure.
Right, so the Seaport, and I'll tell you, this is a great story. Probably around 94 or 95. Now, I worked, South Boston was on D Street.
Sure.
You know where the convention center is now?
Yeah.
That was C Street. Okay. And all that was there were fish markets. So any fish that came off the boat would be driven down to C Street. And you have tractor trailers, and you just see fish being offloaded and loaded all day long. It was processing. And they took that by eminent domain to build the convention center. But 4th of July weekend, I think it was 95, I was working down in the Seaport now. That didn't even exist, right?
Yeah.
And we were building a crane, putting a crane together, this big, huge crane. And we're like, what's going to be here? And they're like, this place is going to be madness in 20, 25 years from now. And we were setting the crane up to start hanging the iron for the Seaport Hotel.
Okay.
Now, when I would back into work, my truck or my car, when I would go to work, and I'm in my early 20s, you would have to watch where you backed up in the parking lot because there may be some homeless guy sleeping there, or maybe someone that come out of the bar on the corner that fell asleep. You'd have to worry about not running someone over, and
that's fucking crazy.
And it was insane. So when you go down D Street now, you see all these buildings, you see down the Seaport, you see all this development. I'm telling you, 25, 30 years ago, there was nothing down there.
My old man says the same thing. My father says the same shit.
The biggest restaurant you had down there was, I think, Anthony's Pier 4,
right?
And the story goes, and I don't know how true it is, he basically came over from Greece and just took the land. There was no deed or anything. That's what they say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that was
God love him.
That was the premier restaurant. But there was really nothing else around there. I mean, but that's my point is Boston has changed so much. Then you look at the South End. I mean, you drive over 93, the Big Dig. Your dad and your mom will remember, the arteries, Central, everything was above ground. So it has changed. I mean, definitely changed for the better. And think about it. I mean, Boston has the best colleges and universities, mecca for biotech.
There is a lot here we take for granted.
There's a lot that wasn't here, 25, 30 years ago. So, I love it. That's why I love it. I mean, there's certain things that are inconvenience, but we've got a great, easy to navigate through MBTA. I mean, look,
functionality can be an issue at
well,
some times.
functionality. Listen, I mean, we don't care about functionality, but
Right.
if you try and navigate through the subway system in New York, you need a PhD.
Oh, legit?
This is all just by color.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah, it's
okay,
like,
that's interesting.
It's like we're good with crayon. We're good with crayons. We can take the T. We can figure it out.
I didn't even know. See, I've never been to New York and like done the
Right.
at least been in the subway in New York, so I don't know
Yeah.
the first thing about it. But that's interesting to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you need a PhD and a collapsible baton. You know what I mean?
So everybody who sits there and shits on Boston for our road layout and how New York's was better because it's like a grid. Meanwhile, their public transportation is like the opposite from what you're making it sound like, right?
Yeah.
So like you're
I
saying
mean,
that
if they're going to compare Boston to New York, I mean, all day long, Boston.
no shit.
I mean, not even the transit systems, but the sports teams and
Yeah,
the people. I mean, we're better than people in New York. There's no doubt.
Me personally, I've never sat here as either a Boston sports fan or a Massachusetts person and been like, damn, I wish I was from New York. I've been like,
No.
I've always been very content with being
No,
here.
if you said that to me now, I'd probably call like 911 and say, you've got to get this kid admitted to McLean's mental institution.
Yeah, exactly.
Psychiatry.
Walden Pond.
Yeah, you'd need some psychological help.
I'd be in there. Yeah, absolutely. Straight jacket optional. Now,
you'd be playing thumb hockey with the guy in the, guy in the straight jacket right
Legit,
next to you.
just like this.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of this question is like, when you first come out, like you start going out in Boston, you're working in the city, you got a crew of guys, you're going, where are you guys, like, what's your spot? You're like, we're going in the city tonight, like, where are we going?
So if I'm in my 20s working at Shaughnessy and Ahern
Yep.
after work, we're going to a local pub, whether it was Murphy's Law or there was a great pub called the Abbey, which is not there. It was like if you walked into this place, it was right off of West 1st Street, you'd walk in there after work, and you'd walk in like, now I'm working at this place, I'm 20 years old. But we got guys that are 30, 40, 50.
Yeah, with a crew of guys,
Vietnam veterans, like tough dudes, right? And, wherever they were going, you wanted to be around them. So you go to like the neighborhood bar or something. Then on the weekends, like most people from Medford was a dry city, didn't have bars growing up because I think in like the 60s, a cop got killed in a bar or something. There was something like that. So there was no bars in Medford. So we would go to hang around with the Malden kids at like My Honey Fitz in Malden, or you'd end up in North Station. Most kids from Medford would end up in North Station, like at the Harp. The Harp's been there forever. Bunch of bars on Canal Street. So that's where we'd go in your 20s. In your 30s, you're having kids. You're not allowed to go out, right? So right now in my 50s, if we're gonna go out, we're gonna walk down Hanover Street, and go to wherever. I mean, there's so many
Strip,
restaurants,
as I like to call it.
I mean,
it's like
here's a problem, like with the North End going out now. Like we have a lot of friends there. They own restaurants. You get Straga, you've got Brico, you got all these places, but you feel guilty because everybody knows each other. If I don't go to Straga, I feel like I'm cheating on Nick Verano. Right? So
exactly.
It's like,
and it's something that, like, again, we can't say it's like the people we're friends with because it's like hard to describe.
Well, I'll give for instance. Sunday, we ate. Where did we eat? Bencato, I think it was. Bencato, right? And it's a beautiful day, wide open.
Sure.
And of course, people are walking by, and I go to Straga all the time because Nikki's my buddy. Dave's awesome. His sister Rosanna's awesome.
Everybody's so good in there.
They're just good people, right?
Awesome.
And you got a Medford connection in there. One of the girls, Vanessa, is married to a Medford guy. So I'm sitting in Bencato and Vanessa's walking by. She's going to work and like does a double take at me like, I can't believe you're not in Straga. And I'm like, I'll be right over.
Yeah.
So of course,
you gotta have like an obligatory drink. You know what I'm saying?
I flew right over there after I was outed. But I mean, you get old like us. You want a good dinner, maybe a glass of wine, and then hopefully in bed by 8 o'clock.
I can't even imagine going to sleep that early at this point in my life.
Well, you guys, all your generation. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Yeah, you guys wake up at the crack of noon.
Yeah, I mean,
your camera crew fell out of the car.
I was gonna say, they had a long. I don't know what they were doing last night, but no, these guys are pretty prompt. They're up early. They do, like I said, they do a lot of music video work, and that shit can happen at like 3 a.m. This kid might get a call to show up who the fuck knows where and film whatever. So, next thing I wanted to get into was, obviously you've been a Teamsters guy.
35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
Now, was your goal when you first got in? Be like, I want to fucking run this place, or is this something? Be the head guy here, or Were you just like, is it something you grew into, or guys kind of like rallied around you? Like, how did this work?
I tell the story all the time. I'm 4 generations. I love the Teamsters Union. It's given me everything in my entire life. And, you know, my dad was a Teamster. My grandfather was a Teamster, great-grandfather. And my dad was a worker. He worked 2 or 3 jobs, never held office. But I idolized my dad so much. Like, I think about him all the time, right? And I always loved the Teamsters. I loved the camaraderie. All his friends were Teamsters, all Charlestown guys. And I knew at 8 years old. I tell the story. I went to St. Joseph's in Medford for a little while. And, you know, you go to school with kids that grew up at Lawrence Estates, which is a rich section, all white-collar people. We're blue-collar stiffs from, you know, Hillside, going there. And what do you want to be? I want to be a doctor. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a truck driver for the Teamsters. I knew at 8 years old.
Really?
I used to wait third Sunday of every month. My father would say, hey, you want to come to the union meeting? Sure. I'd go there like all proud. And I'd sit there and it would be like watching the President of the United States. I was just in awe of the whole organization. And it was so prevalent in our house. Like, I knew that's all I wanted to be. I wanted to be a truck driver. I wanted to drive tractor trailers. You know, I didn't want to cure cancer. Right?
This is the Massachusetts blue-collar dream, by the way. Yeah. I don't care what movie has you. Fuck Good Will Hunting right now. This is... It's just like the blue-collar version of Good Will Hunting right now.
So it was funny when I got the scholarship to play football, and then they found out I left. My guidance counselor calls me up, and he's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm in the Teamsters. I was in the Teamsters working in the theaters and the Boston Garden when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So we were unloading trucks. I loved it. I just loved it. And I'm like, I'm going in the Teamsters. Like, and, you know, being a captain of a football team, when I got into the union, I ended up going to do my apprenticeship. I went to Riverside Riggers first. They closed down. Then I ended up at Shaughnessy and Ahern. And I loved it. I mean, I just loved it. I wanted to buy a house in Medford, and I wanted to work, but I loved going to the union meetings. I was a captain of my football team, so I always had this kind of leadership ability. And I always stood up for myself because, you know, my mother is the strongest person I know, and she doesn't take shit from anybody, and she still runs the show of all of us, right? But I knew I wanted to be a leader. I became a shop steward at a young age. And a shop steward is, you know, you're enforcing the contract, you're dealing with disputes between the employer and the men. And I'm dealing with 40 or 50-year-old guys that have issues coming to me at 20, 21 years old, saying, can you fix this? And it was like empowering. And then I saw the opportunity where, hey, listen, I've got a brain in my head. I carry myself well. And this is what I want to do. I want to negotiate contracts. I want to stand up for working people. So did I envision being the general president of the Teamsters? I wanted to just be the president of the Teamsters Local 25, and then it grew from there. You know, I started having a prominent role nationally, and I love it. I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world.
It really looks like it's something you grew into. I really think
it's
like every
struggle.
step of your career, like mature, you know, as you're growing. Yeah, I granted, I can't imagine that it's something that there's a reason only one guy does it.
Well, it's not one guy.
Or not one guy. I meant
no, but I'm glad you said that because I've always had great people with me.
With you, right? Okay.
I've always had great people with me that supported me. It wasn't just family. My family was unconditionally supportive of it, and it was never about self-serving. Wasn't about money. Wasn't about power. But I've always had a great team with me. But most importantly, I won the support of rank and file people that go to work. They put their faith in me a long time ago, and they have still put their faith in me. So I owe them a debt of gratitude. Sure. And more importantly, I got to get up every morning and find a way to make their lives better. And I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, and I think that, like I said, it's. I'm saying it from a term of when I say like one guy do it, like there's not like a committee of you guys. It's like one guy. This is the guy who's like our head guy.
It's like,
I guess.
No, yeah, I'm the head guy. So it's funny. We were talking about this the other day. I'm like, everybody loves to take credit for success, and the success, when we have success, it's not one person. It's the whole team firing on all cylinders. It's the support of the membership, whatever battle that we may be in. But when shit hits the fan, it goes bad. Yeah, one guy takes a hit.
I was gonna say, it's
and I'm good with it.
Yeah, it ain't like I can't imagine that something like this is just meeting people, shaking hands, and going to dinners and stuff like that. There's a lot of
complete opposite.
I mean, I don't want to say like bullshit, like it's not like it isn't important. I'm saying just like it's got to just, I mean, you've probably dealt with every fucking thing that has been thrown at you, and it's a million different things.
Yeah, I mean, a typical day, I could be in Omaha, Nebraska, or California at a workplace visiting members at 4 in the morning. 8 in the morning, I might be on a conference call with President of the United States, or I may be dealing with a pension fund issue, or I may be, the day changes so much, and it's competitive every single day. Like, you don't get a day off. You don't get, hey, I'm going to take a break today. I'm going to take a powder. You don't get that opportunity, because when the shit hits the fan, you've got to be ready to go.
24-hour job.
You've got to address it, and you've got to have the answers. But again, I have the best team in the world. I've got the best staff I could possibly have. There's people that have been with me 30 years that came down to D.C. with me. There's people that have been 20 years. And I just can't say enough how listen, it's challenging, but at the same time, and your dad will agree with this, where he grew up, we love chaos. I love chaos. I love the challenge. It's like my addiction, not drugs or alcohol. My addiction is fighting every day, like taking on corporate America, fighting with Amazon, fighting with UPS, fighting with Anheuser-Busch, whoever it is, and then, fighting with politicians or holding people accountable. And the one thing that I wanted to do in my career is to leave this organization better than I found it, and I'm committed to doing that. That's why at some point in time, people are going to get sick of me. And when I'm not relevant anymore, then I leave on my own terms, but knowing that we left this place better than we found it.
And with that being said, do you think that where would you, if somebody was going to join the Teamsters right now, okay, we'll do a little like campaign ad or whatever the hell you want to call this little recruitment clip. If somebody's going to come in and be like, listen, I'm thinking of getting into the Teamsters, what can they expect? What does the Teamsters offer to people? Like just
it depends what you want to do. So
sure.
we represent everybody from airline pilots to zookeepers and everybody in between. We have motion picture drivers on motion pictures, convention center, United Parcel Service. We've got rubbish. We're very diverse. We represent X-ray technicians. We represent nurses. We represent cities and towns, very, very diverse. Food distribution. I mean, it depends what you want to do. I mean, if I was going to, and I'd have these conversations a lot with people, like they'll call you up and say, can you get me a job? Sure. What do you want to do? I don't know. I just want to be in the Teamsters. Okay, go get your CDL, Class A or Class B. Then you're more marketable. You're more marketable to maybe go to work at Massport or maybe go to work at UPS. I mean, UPS is the largest collective bargaining agreement in the country. Myself and my team negotiated the largest settlement ever, $30 billion deal 2.5 years ago. Our UPS drivers they'll be making $50 an hour.
Wow.
At the end of this contract with free medical and pensions. So, we're so diverse. It just depends what you want to do.
Right. And so in other words, like there is, when you go into if somebody who didn't know that it was this in-depth and it didn't know that it offered this much, if you want to call it that, right? There is so much there that it's not like, listen, you're not just coming in here to drive a truck for a movie set.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying it's not just one thing.
No, that's the perception. Everybody thinks Teamsters, we are truck drivers, and that is a huge part of our history. It's what defined us in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But thankfully, we've evolved because, the trucking industry has not grown. We once had 400,000 freight members just driving trucks, and we might be down to 25,000, but we've got 340,000 UPS members where we had 100,000 25 years ago. So it's just good that our eggs aren't all in one basket, and we've organized in non-traditional industries. I mean, we're organizing right now in the cannabis industry. There's 400,000 W-2 employees that work in the cannabis industry, that are cultivating, warehousing, and going to be distributing retail. So, that's the difference between the Teamsters and most other unions.
And I think that is a differing point, because I think when people think of like a local 22, okay, you're a laborer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you go in the sprinkler fitter, or you're a painter, or whatever the hell. Like,
or you're
it's
a plumber.
Just like that, or a plumber, whatever. It's like that one thing. I'm going to the Carpenters Union. Yeah, exactly.
That's one craft.
So the Teamsters is really like the spectrum of different things that you can get involved in, and that's what makes it such a enticing, union to join if somebody's looking to go that way.
Well, plus, we're we're pretty high profile. Teamsters is.
I think you guys are the most well-known union in the country.
We've put it back on the map over the last 3 years, and that was one of our goals when we took over. Was we're the most influential union because think about this: we control commerce, we control trucking, we control railroads. We have train engineers, and the people that repair the tracks are all Teamsters. Airlines, United Airlines, we have 10,000 mechanics there, and we represent pilots at other small airlines.
I never knew any of this shit, right? I'm not going to lie.
And then you think about maritime. You see tugboats moving these big ships in here. They're Teamsters.
Didn't know that.
So we control all 4 modes of transportation when you think about it. So, we've got the ability to flip that switch at some point, and we could shut down the whole country, commerce, for one day. That would show you how pretty important we are, right?
What's funny is, again, this is me, simpleton me, I guess, or just not knowing the depths of how far this stuff goes. Again, I always thought you guys were like the movie guys. That help build sets and
we are.
And absolutely. Again, like I said, I'm just learning this now, really, or since I've known that you were coming on the show and whatever, that it really goes so much deeper, and the Teamsters really is this, like, I don't want to say all encompassing, but like this, it's the biggest as far as like what you guys cover union out there.
It's like going to a restaurant on the North End and you get a menu,
and it's like a Cheesecake Factory.
There's not one item.
Yeah,
we've got many industries we represent on that menu.
And I knew none of that. And to go back to the city of Boston, because obviously the Teamsters has a huge presence here, right? In the last, I was going to say 15 to 20 years, but really in your lifetime, what is the most successful development, whether it's a real estate project, the refurbishing of like a neighborhood or however it is, what is the most successful endeavor you've seen the city of Boston overtake or do in your lifetime?
Oh, I mean, there's no question. 2 things stick out in my mind.
Yeah,
three things, all right?
Okay.
Where are we sitting right now?
Big Night Live. We are in Play, which is part of Big Night Live, right outside. Well, not outside. It's basically essentially a part of TD Garden. This was not like this when I was growing up.
The old Boston Garden.
Yeah.
When they built the new TD Garden, I hauled the steel in for that. And they built the new garden, which we're sitting at right now, while the old garden was 1.5 feet away from the new garden. They dismantled it piece by piece after the new garden was built. So the transformation of North Station, as a result of the Big Dig, which that started when I was a senior in high school, right?
We got to talk. The next question is going to be about the Big Dig.
So the Big Dig, I mean, you took a nightmare that was seen by, it was visible. You had an upper deck, lower deck of Route 93 coming through the middle of downtown Boston, right? And it was just an ugly structure. And you've seen all that structure get put underground, tunnels underwater, with all these arteries to make it better. Traffic is brutal here still. That's the second thing. And I think the third most prominent development that we've ever seen is the Seaport.
Yeah, I was just going to finish it. That's the one I've really seen. I mean, the Big Dig, I remember being like a young kid. Obviously, I'm 33, so that was like my younger years, you know, elementary school and stuff like that. And obviously, I'm not socially in tune to where like I can observe things like happening and seeing like, oh, this is like a difference. But the Seaport started, I don't know, when I was in maybe like middle school or something like that.
I'm 53 now. That started when I was like 17 or 18.
Wow, so it was even happening like before.
And it worked. And I when I did my apprenticeship program, there were times we were hauling crane pots or drill rigs onto the Big Dig site, and to watch what it is now and what it was.
It's insane.
I mean, the engineering and the talent. Forget about the investment that was made. That kept thousands upon thousands of people working every day. And when that ended, the construction there was a little bit of a recession because, everybody was working on that. You were a laborer. You were local 88. My buddy Frankie Calabro runs that now. I played football at UMass. He runs the tunnel workers. I mean, and there was operating engineers. There were pipe fitters. There were plumbers. There were electricians. Everybody was working. As soon as that project ended, there was some hard times for the trades. But the development of, Mayor Manino, unbelievable. That guy was the best mayor we ever had.
So, and he just answered my next question, essentially, before we went right back to the Big Dig. The best mayor in your lifetime in the city of Boston, just say it,
Hands down, it was Tom
Manino.
And listen, Marty Walsh, a great friend. He did a great job. He wasn't here as long as Tom, so I might have been a little premature, but in my lifetime, seeing a guy like Tom Manino, the way he operated, the way he stick handled developers,
It's a great way to word that. I'm going to use that for the rest of my life.
The way he stick handled the city council. I mean, this guy got everything he wanted. But the reason why he got everything he wanted, he wasn't sitting in his office in City Hall. He was in neighborhoods every day.
Yeah.
And, I'll be honest with you, like when you see someone operating that way, it inspired me to get into my workplaces and go see the people that I work for, my constituents. And a lot of times these politicians nowadays, they don't go out there and meet with their people.
No.
And Tom Manino was fabulous. I mean, when I say stick-handled, and he had a great guy working for him. Like, so it wasn't just Tom Manino. You had a guy like Michael Knievy.
Okay.
Michael Knievy was like his Ray Donovan. Do you remember the show Ray Donovan?
Yeah, absolutely.
He was the fixer.
Okay.
And if there was a problem, Michael Knievy, who he's one of my most favorite people in politics, but Tom Manino definitely was awesome.
It seemed to me like he really loved the city and had like a feel for it.
Oh, yeah.
And his foresight with the seaport, because that was him, right? That was his thing?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, he everybody, when it was done, obviously Tom was pretty much, I'll tell you a great story about Tom Manino.
Yeah, give me, we need a Manino story, are you kidding me?
The night that Del Frisco's opened up,
in the seaport,
right?
Okay.
And Seaport was still way underdeveloped. That was probably 2008.
What was there, like Atlantic Beer Garden, Whiskey Priest, and fucking
there was
No
all
Name
that.
maybe?
Yeah, there was, they were there.
Yeah.
But that part of the Seaport, you had Del Frisco's, then you had Legal Seafoods and that whole block going in there. So they open at night. I'm in Florida for business. Tom Manino Michael Knievy calls me and says, hey, the mayor wants to have dinner with you tomorrow night. Can you get here? I'm like, I'm in Florida. I'll fly back. So I fly back. It was open at night. And we're sitting down. It's Tom Manino, Michael Knievy, and myself. And we were talking about the city of Boston. We were talking about movie business was starting to boom in Boston. We got a tax incentive through the governor, Deval Patrick at the time. I had the rubbish contracts were coming up, so we were having kind of an informal meeting. And the place was loud. Like, they bring people in to, for opening. They bring people in, right?
Yeah.
So we're in there, and the music's loud. And Tom was like, Tom never drank. He just worked, right? And the waiter comes over, and Tom goes, hey, do something about this music. It's too loud in here. The kid had no idea who Tom Manino was. And so Michael's sitting there, and the kid walks away. Michael gets up, puts his glasses like this, walks over, puts his arm around the general manager, and says, it's pretty loud in here, the music, all this stuff. Within 10 seconds, the kid's coming back, like, frightened. He didn't realize it was the mayor of Boston. And Tom was great. He's like, that kid, I know you probably don't know who I am. You're probably not even old enough to vote. Like, he just started being
so funny.
But that was, I'll never forget that.
He had some great moments. The KJ and Hondo thing was my favorite thing at the Celtics parade. That personally is like my favorite Manino moment with the whole, because like he was just such a likable guy, even if like he had some social faux pas, but like whatever. That's like what made him him. Like that was his personality. Like who cares?
But what you saw is what you got.
100%. He was like an authentic guy that
he wasn't a politician.
No. He seemed like he was just a man of the people and got shit done.
And he'd tell you, you screw me, I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you back, which you're going to love. Probably couldn't say that now. You'd end up being indicted.
No, definitely not. No, but...
And Marty was great, too. I mean, I said, listen, Marty's a good friend. Him and I used to battle over stupid shit all the time, like rubbish and different things. But at the end of the day, I mean, Marty did a great job. I mean, think about where he ended up. Guy from Boston. He was a building trades guy. No, he was actually a state rep. Then he ran the building trades. Then he became the mayor of Boston. Became the Secretary of Labor, which is huge, right? Left there, and now he's the executive. He runs the NHL Players Association, executive director.
He's with the NHLPA now.
Yeah, he left.
I didn't know that.
He left 2 years into his term, and here's a guy, I think, because of the way Manino operated, because Manino knew how to stick handle, but he knew how to satisfy everybody's needs. He just didn't take on one issue and forget about the others. Like, he navigated through the unions. He navigated through the developers. He navigated through, the planning board, the zoning board. And he knew how to operate, which I think if you're from Boston and you saw this, like a guy like Marty was fantastic at that.
Yeah.
I mean, when he became Secretary of Labor, I did a bunch of interviews because at that time I was getting ready to go down and take over the Teamsters nationwide in D.C., And they asked me, do you think Marty's going to be successful? I go, absolutely, because he knows how to deal with people. He knows how to get to yes. He ran a $6 billion city, right? And he navigated through some tricky situations. I mean, the city of Boston is probably a $10 billion a year operation where, you've got to deal with a lot of diverse issues. And I think a guy like Manino wrote the template on how to do it, and it's been refined, under Mayor Walsh. And, it's great.
Now, to stay on the mayor topic, we have an election coming up in November.
We do, yes.
Right? Okay, we get two prime candidates here. Obviously, the sitting mayor, Michelle Wu, and Josh Kraft. Where are you at on this race? Where are you at candidate-wise? What are you looking at right now?
So when I was a president of Local 25, our locals make their own decisions. Mm-hmm. They're autonomous. We really don't weigh in. I believe Local 25 has endorsed Mayor Wu. And Mayor Wu's been good to the Teamsters Union. She's taken some heat as far as bike lanes and developers aren't happy and everything else. But as far as everything that the Teamsters had going on in the city, she's never wavered on the contracts for the rubbish. They've all been done 100% union. They've all, we've got the motion picture, tax incentives. So when you got to make a choice, and look, I've met Jonathan Kraft. Gentleman, absolute gentleman.
Heard nothing but good things about Josh.
But he's got a tough race ahead of him. Michael Kenevi's running his campaign, who was Manino's guy. But as far as the election goes, my own opinion, she's gonna win.
Yeah.
She's gonna win. And she does have some work to do too, though. There's some people that are pissed off, but it's like anything else. When you're making decisions or you're trying to do a job, no matter how good you do it or no matter who you satisfied, there's always going to be someone that's going to be critical and take it on. She's getting criticized because, it seems like people, leaning a lot of social justice issues seem like they're more important.
I think that might be literally the biggest thing that's her issue tough. Right now.
Look, I'll say this because on a national level, politics, I think we pretty much navigated through flawlessly the presidential election by not endorsing a candidate for president, which signaled that 65% of our members, these are working people, so I assume that was a trend nationwide, were sick of the Democratic Party. They were sick of the social justice issues that were put on a platform, and in reality, social justice, social issues are important, but it didn't control the vote or the narrative when it came to the election. So I think I like Michelle. She's a friend. I endorsed her right away when she ran the first time after Mayor Walsh left.
Sure.
But I think what people want to see in the city of Boston, they want to see development. They want to see people put to work. And they want to see their wages go up. Look, Boston's a pretty expensive place to live in. And if you're not having development in the city, your wages aren't going to grow. Inflation is pretty stagnant right now, thankfully. But, each candidate, whoever wins, is going to have some tough decisions ahead of them. But I think she wins.
Yeah. And I think...
and listen, I want to say, I like them both. She's been great to us. He's said all the right things when I met with him. But, the local unions will make that decision. And at the end of the day, I think she pulls it out.
And I guess another thing as far as not to go. Well, I should say, since you said something about the union and supporting her and stuff like that, were you hesitant to support President Trump when the union had a heavy vote for him, or was supporting? It was
well, we weren't hesitant on supporting Trump. We didn't endorse President Trump. What we did was something no other union did.
Yeah.
We polled our members. One member, one vote. We polled our members with a QR code with a publication that went out to 1.3 million members. We did other science-based polling, but the one we did, they were all consistent. 65% of our members are voting Republican. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't dismiss the other 35% that are going to vote Democrat.
Sure.
So we decided as a general executive board to not endorse any candidate, which basically people viewed that as an endorsement for Trump, right? Because they were going to vote that way anyways. But, you can't abandon the other half that didn't want to vote for Trump, not the other half, the 35% that didn't want to vote for Trump. So it was best for us to stay out of it. But we have 312 local unions nationwide, or 319, I should say. And we just said, look, the locals are autonomous. Do what you want to do. Some locals endorsed Harris, like California endorsed Harris.
Sure.
But you go to other parts of the country, like Texas, you go to a lot of the right-to-work red states, they're not going to endorse Kamala Harris. And she was probably the worst candidate ever.
How do you, and that again, we'll keep not to do too much about the union, but how do you feel the union support has been, comparatively speaking, between President Trump versus President
Biden?
Biden or Harris?
Yeah, so I'll tell you this. I mean, Joe Biden fixed a massive pension problem, right, for unions. And the Teamsters had one of the biggest problems. However, the history is that the Democrats created this problem in 1980 when they passed deregulation and everything else. So I always use this analogy when I was talking to him. And Joe Biden was a decent man, okay? He just had bad people around him, bad advisors. But he did solve a huge problem for us, and I always tell people that, because I got criticized about, well, you should go with Biden, he fixed your pension. I'm like, well, they broke it. They broke it in 1980.
Sure.
And I always say this, I go, when I was describing it, I said, it's like this. I'm playing street hockey in Medford. I break my mother's window in 1980. 2022 or 21, I decide to fix it. So I'm going to fix a problem that I created. Should I get accolades for that? That's my job.
It's probably like somebody could look at you and be like, well, why don't you do it like fucking 3 days after you or whatever you.
So we took some criticism for that, but we've got full access to this administration, and look, some unions aren't happy with some of the layoffs that Trump did, and they're fighting them legally. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I went down and met with him after he won, and we got the Secretary of Labor, who we wanted, appointed, and he wasn't going to appoint her. And, we had dialogue. I mean, any issues the Teamsters Union has had, we've got the ability and the access to get it resolved. And look, he's been in office 155 days. So, look, anybody's going to be critical. But at the end of the day, right now, we're in a good spot with the administration. But more importantly, we're working bipartisan. I'm a Democrat. Always going to be a Democrat. I grew up a Democrat. I don't like what the Democratic Party has become right now. And I knew 3 years ago, if we're going to get anything done in this country on behalf of working people, we have to reach across the aisle and talk to the Republicans. We have to talk to Democrats.
Wow.
We've got to talk to independents, which has never happened before. And we're making some significant progress, which that's what we're paid to do. Like if I just abandon, a third of my membership who don't believe the direction we're going, and I still have an obligation to represent their best interests.
Absolutely.
So.
And that's kind of like I said, that's like a president of the United States. You have to be a president for everybody. You can't just be a president for your political party. You know what I mean? That's the tricky thing where it's like, even if you think these people are assholes, whoever it is, I'm just saying, whether you do or you don't, or whatever your opinion is on them, you have to be a president for anybody, and that's what you have to do too, as a guy in your position.
You don't have to like the person in any scenario.
Anything.
You don't have to like the person. You should respect the position.
Yeah.
I mean, burning flags, desecrating historic monuments.
It's not my style, personally.
How is that fucking helping anybody?
And
why is your opinion better than mine? I respect your opinion. I might disagree with it.
100%. Yeah.
But I respect it. But why is yours better than mine?
I've always looked at that where it's like, I think people really need to stop. I don't know if it's ever going to stop with this whole, like, I'm right, you're wrong thing. I mean, there are some things where I'm like, I don't know how anybody looks at this conversely or the opposite and thinks that it's normal. Like you said, there's things that the Democratic Party has done that have alienated you a little bit and kind of pissed you off a little bit. And I think a lot of people can say that back. Because like I said, the Democratic Party from when you were younger compared to like now is just essentially not even the same thing. I don't know the face.
I was hoping that after this election it'd be a wake-up call. Like, let's get, and everybody wants to blame, Joe Biden. Everybody wants to blame this one and that one. The blame should come from the party that didn't or wasn't able to cultivate and promote a viable candidate. And I think both parties need to take a look at what's the future of this country going to look like if we can't collaborate. Whoever is in charge, the Republicans or the Democrats, like what is this going to look like? And I think both parties need to, stop weaponizing issues, and work together to get some things done in this country.
To move on to this next question, right? We've heard Mayor Wu talk about Boston is the safest major city in the country. You're about as well traveled as a person, especially around the country, that I've met or I've known, right? Would you agree?
Boston's pretty safe.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would honestly, knock on wood, I would agree with that as well. I think Boston's a fairly safe place to. I do.
But every city, every major city in the country has their issues.
Yeah.
And again, weaponizing an issue. Why portray Boston as something it's not? I feel safe. I live in Boston, right? I could walk in any neighborhood, good or bad, and not worry. Not worry. But there's bad actors in every single neighborhood, every single major city. I mean,
cities
Chicago's pretty tough. New York's very tough.
Yeah.
San Francisco's tough. LA's tough. But to say Boston's not safe, Boston's very safe.
I was gonna say, because cities are always different. You know what I mean? Like it does, like city. It's not the suburbs.
It depends. It depends too on what the issues these politicians are embracing. That's going to define if a city's safe or not. I mean, I've never had an issue going to L.A. Last week, L.A. was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Right. Pretty rough. But I think Boston overall is safe, and I always tell people I'm so proud of Boston. I always tell people it's the cleanest city I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Yeah, I would. Now these two guys travel a shit ton. Where have you seen? Because he's in Miami all the time.
But how old?
LA.
You guys are how old?
They're 28.
Yeah, you went to Disney World. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But like, what do you think about like as far as like Boston? I usually ask Dom like one off-camera question, like producer, like what is? Boston. Yeah, like comparatively, and you've been New York, fucking Miami.
Definitely a lot cleaner than New York.
Really?
Yeah.
No, what about like somewhere like a Miami or a LA or some shit like that? Like,
I think we have really good restaurants out here.
Yeah.
That's like a big thing.
Do you prefer Boston to wherever else you've traveled? Are you like, I can't wait to get, huh?
Yeah, you look like your eyes are a little closed. Does Boston have the best weed?
Yeah, no, he's just tired. He's not a weed guy. No, yeah, he's just tired. He's permanently tired. No, but he's been in LA a shit ton. Yeah.
It's safe. I mean, you feel safe here.
Right.
I mean, if my mother got on the orange line, I wouldn't be worried.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. To the next point, right? Yeah. What area, we talked about the seaport, and we'll talk about the Big Dig as we kind of come to the end a little bit here, right after this. What area of the city, whether it's a neighborhood, whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter, do you think needs the most attention or refurbish or a little remat, whatever it is, tune up, anything like that, development?
I think a lot of the inner city neighborhoods, outside of the seaport, I think outside of, South Boston, Dorchester, Charlestown, I think there's an untapped resource. And I mean, when I say resource, if you go through, Mattapan or Roxbury, those are tough inner city neighborhoods, a lot of good, hardworking people there.
Yep.
I think City of Boston needs to invest in those communities, provide opportunities for people to buy homes there as well, like affordable housing. And those neighborhoods are beautiful. Some of the houses, the structures there, and the people are good people there.
Yeah.
They just need an opportunity to someone like the City of Boston to make an investment. And I think that's where the next mayor needs to focus.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, look, development needs to happen downtown City of Boston. I mean, we've got a lot of skyscrapers and everything else, but that's I look at that as Wall Street. Let's look at Main Street. Let's look at the neighborhoods like Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury. Those folks need a break. They need infrastructure. They need opportunity. They need development. They need jobs.
Okay, so that's interesting. That's a real interesting take. I would agree. I think you're seeing a lot of good stuff happen, like north side of the city. I think south side of the city is kind of next up, and could definitely see that next wave of refurbish or development or in whatever way, shape, or form. Right now, to close this out, would you call the Big Dig a success?
Absolutely, it's a success.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt. It's a success for several different reasons. Traffic's everywhere. I think and I'm not a fan of these car services like Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
I think they've saturated the market so much, and the people that work there, they're trying to hustle a living, but you destroyed an icon in the city of Boston, taxi drivers. I mean, I used to look at taxi drivers as, as such a blue collar.
The unsung hero kind of thing, yeah.
Well, unsung hero, but it was a hustle.
Yeah.
It was a hustle for people that worked 40 hours that needed extra work, needed extra money. I think the Big Dig has promoted more traffic because it's easy to navigate. It's bigger. You get to more places right off that artery. I mean, if you look at it, it looks like a heart valve.
Yeah.
You can go everywhere, and I think they're a victim of the Big Dig was a victim of its own success, so to speak, now because it's easy to navigate, it's bigger, and more people are on the roads.
And you know what's funny? I've the people like native Bostonians I've had on this show a couple of times, people that grew up here, people like Jermaine Wiggins or R.A. from Spittin' Chicklets and stuff like that. They've also said like they're like the Big Dig it did make things.
Well, think about this too.
Better.
Just looking at it. You don't see what your mother and father and I saw growing up. You don't see this massive, ugly, green, steel structure, double-decker, cars everywhere, traffic not moving. You see a greenway right down the middle of Boston that's beautiful, right? You come downtown Boston, you see a greenway that used to be saturated with ugly steel, but that's all buried underground now.
Right.
And,
This is Atlantic Ave, right?
This is Atlantic Ave.
Right.
I mean, Atlantic Ave runs from the north end all the way to South Station.
South Station, yep.
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is nice to look at, and especially on like a nice summer day or something. Now, they have food trucks out there now. There's
Yeah.
people doing fucking yoga and stuff.
And people are walking around with no fare. Like you would walk under that structure back in the day, Atlantic Ave. It looked like Kensington Street, right? In Philly, you had, homeless people, which, it's unfortunate people are homeless, but you had a lot of drug activity. It was like kind of dark and gloomy. Right here, Boston Garden, over here.
Bright and blooming.
Bright and blooming. We were coming down here in our 20s to go to the Hop or wherever, or go to the Boston Garden. It was dark and gloomy because you had the train running right down Causeway Street.
Like no sunlight's getting it.
And it smelled like piss.
Yeah. It's
smelled
like the
like
chase
piss.
scene from the French Connection when he's like under the Brooklyn or whatever it is, the whatever bridge he's under moving around. Is there an area of the city you're glad was updated? The Seaport's different because it's like nothing was really there. But like I have an idea of one. My dad always says this one place. I wonder if it's the same place you're thinking of, the combat zone.
Oh,
he was like, it's good that the combat zone isn't what it was when you guys were growing up because he was like, it was a dangerous place.
Oh,
like
it was awful.
Hookers, pimps, drugs everywhere.
Awful.
It was just tough.
And so when I first got into the Teamsters Union, my brother, myself, and my father would work the theaters, like the Broadway theaters, and we would Sullivan Station would get on the Sullivan Station, get off in Chinatown. And that was a combat zone pretty much. You get off at Chinatown, have to walk through the combat zone. And it was rough. It was very rough. But again, you have an investment being made there. And it's not just the city of Boston. Suffolk University bought all of Tremont Street, right, which is basically the combat zone. And then you have Emerson College that bought, I would say Suffolk University bought North and South. And Emerson bought East and West, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great area. But think about this. It was so bad, but our capital was right there, half a mile away.
Right, literally right up.
Quarter of a mile.
Not you could look at. It's right up that street.
Yeah. I would agree with your dad that that was a solid investment. They got a lot of riffraff out of there.
The South End they cleaned up a lot too.
South End cleaned up. South End was, South End, with the exception of what's going on in Mass and Cass, another great potential. If you take a right, if you're on Molina Cass Boulevard, you take a right on Mass Ave, you go by the hospital. That in the 90s was really starting to be developed or gentrified. It's kind of went a little backwards now, but that's another untapped resource where that could be.
I always say you could really make a case that the South End might have the best food in the city.
Oh, definitely.
They've really, really you could make a case for that. I think at this point with the variety of cuisine down there.
Is Stella's still there? Stella's.
I think so.
Giacomo's was there.
Wait, well, hold on. Dan passes in the background. He has an objection to something that I just said. Wait, why? You can't
the North End has the best food in the world.
But you can't make a case for that, Dan. You can't make an argument that South End is
There's a little bit more variety.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's
diversity,
what I mean.
more diverse food.
I mean,
yeah.
You don't think so?
But I got to be honest with you.
Dan said no.
Listen, I got to agree with my boy Danny.
Yeah.
North End has the best food in the world.
You think so? I mean, I mean, I'm spoiled with it. Like, I love it. You know what I mean? So I guess I don't know that I appreciate it enough because I'm so like used to it.
Know
like,
what I know? If I knew what the North End would be 25 years ago, I would have moved here knowing what I know now.
Really?
We live here now, but I would have moved here 25 years ago. I mean, great people. And that's a neighborhood that's still a neighborhood.
It is.
You don't see any big chain restaurants. You don't see any bullshit. You see people that have been there for generations upon. That's probably the only neighborhood. Danny, would you agree with this? North End is probably the only neighborhood that really, truly still has generations upon generations of people living there.
It's salty a little bit, but there's no
Yeah.
salty, but yeah, generational, yeah.
I mean, how many people? I mean, my father says it sometimes. Like, how many people? I mean, obviously, it's not the same as it was when they were growing up. You know what I mean? But like, how many, like, original North Enders do you think are still there and stuff like that? You got to think of it's like still a good amount, like a good amount, I would say.
20%.
Yeah, I mean, and when a neighborhood gentrifies that much and changes and real estate changes and people move in, that's still a pretty admirable number, I would say. You know what I mean? Retain your locals like that.
My youngest son lives there.
Yeah.
He goes to Suffolk University,
right.
So he lives there, and it's great. It's a great community. I love it.
Yeah, Nick Verano still says it's the best Italian food in the entire country, I guess you could say.
100%.
I had a blast having you on. I hope
Same
to do
here.
something with you again in the future,
We definitely
buddy.
will. We definitely will. As you know, I've started my own podcast.
Better Bad Ideas, and this is where you can find it. You need like your own personal Instagram, though. You have one, but you don't post on it, and it's like private.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not a social media guy.
Oh, come on. You got people for that.
Yeah, I know, but it's still like this is something we're building.
Yeah.
As you know, it's difficult, but we're having great guests.
I mean, really, if you haven't watched Better Bad Ideas yet, it's a fairly new show.
Yes.
You even a year in yet?
No, we launched in January.
January.
We've had 23 episodes. We do one a week. Pretty diverse crew of people. We've had politicians. We've had Hollywood people. We've had Navy SEALs.
It's like the guest list is, if you're looking for even just guests alone, I'm just saying that alone is a reason to watch the show. Obviously, Sean's a great host, but it's like the people you've been able to like come out of the gate with is like, I don't know another show that really came out with that.
And it's
kind
fun. It's fun.
Yeah, you enjoy it, right?
It's fun, yeah. I mean, we either shoot in L.A. or D.C. or Boston, so we're pretty mobile. That's why I think we have the ability to get the diverse guests that we get. But look, it's fun, and we're not looking at it. We're looking at it as, you know, it's a way, because mainstream media is done.
You think
right?
so?
100%.
Yeah,
It's scripted,
yeah.
and the narrative's controlled by one side, right?
Yeah.
Here we are, we're talking, we can disagree. You know, you can tell me, shut the fuck up, you don't know what you're talking about. And then we'll go on to the next subject, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that in mainstream media. And by the way, the most influential people that are going to be running this country or doing great things in this world are the people your age group, 18 to 35, that are listening to podcasts, that are on podcasts, that are going to be deciding policy in the future for this country. So that's where we should be focused on.
And with that being said, that's another episode of Shut Up Marc. It's Sean O'Brien, the Teamsters. There's nothing else to really say. It's a great episode. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
it. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. It's
Thanks.
another episode. Golf clap, please. Everybody clap. Everybody clap. Dan, please clap for the episode. Thank you. Wow, there we go, guys.